Okay, so let us talk about some of the very important techniques which you are definitely expected to know for your exams. These are some of the techniques which are definitely going to land up in your exam, particularly with the COVID crisis which has swamped all the world. It is a pandemic, so the techniques involved in the diagnosis of pandemic, they are definitely going to be asked in your exam. So let's take a look at some of the important techniques and how they will correlate to the COVID part that you should know. So here the foremost technique which we have to know about is the PCR. PCR is the underlying basis. It is the underlying basis by which the technique under investigation is used. First, let's discuss the PCR and then we'll go back to the RT-PCR, which is being used for the diagnosis of the COVID. As you know, PCR stands for the polymerase chain reaction. It stands for the polymerase chain reaction. But you have to understand what the PCR does. What is the effect of doing the PCR? Why do you want to do the PCR? So PCR will primarily amplify a known segment of DNA. So there are two things to be noted. What is it doing? कर क्या रहा है ये? एम्पलीफिकेशन कर रहा है. प्राइमरली काम है एम्पलीफिकेशन. एम्पलीफिकेशन कराता है किसका? किसी भी सेगमेंट ऑफ डीएनए का नहीं. जिसको एम्पलीफाई कर रहे हैं वो नोन होना चाहिए. एंड लास्टली इट कैन ओनली बी अ सेगमेंट. पूरा का पूरा डीएनए एम्पलीफाई नहीं करता. पूरा का पूरा सेगमेंट, पूरा का पूरा डीएनए एम्पलीफाई नहीं करता. इट इज एम्पलीफाइंग ओनली अ नोन एंड आई विल add another word, small segment of DNA. It is amplifying a known small segment of DNA. So these are the qualifying terms which you have to understand. Amplification का मतलब millions of copies. Millions of copies. Known का मतलब sequence is known. ऐसा नहीं कि रैंडमली अच्छा एक जीन हो सकता है उसको एम्पलीफाई करना है. नहीं, कौन सा जीन एम्पलीफाई करना है आपको बताना पड़ेगा. यू शुड नो which sequence has to be amplified. Sequence must be known. And lastly, only a small part is undergoing amplification. Only a small part is undergoing amplification. These three basic fundamental concept has to be clear. Millions of copies for a small part of DNA for which the sequence is known. अगर sequence पता नहीं है तो amplify किसको करेंगे? नहीं कर सकते. ठीक है. Sequence should be known because it is required to make primers. कहाँ से स्टार्ट करना है, कहाँ पे फिनिश करना है, वो प्राइमर बताता है. सो जब तक हमें सीक्वेंस पता नहीं होगा तब तक हम प्राइमर बना नहीं सकते. तो ये आपको क्लियर होना चाहिए कि सीक्वेंस पता होगा तभी एम्पलीफिकेशन कर सकते हैं. ठीक है, ये तो हो गया कि क्या प्रोसेस में होता क्या है, इसको यूज किस लिए करते हैं. बेसिकली द use is to check for presence of a specific DNA segment in a given sample. We are checking for the presence of a specific DNA segment in a given sample. इसका फायदा क्या होता है? Primarily it started as a research tool. तो research tool में it will tell us about the polymorphism and mutation. Later on, clinical application. For diagnosis. For diagnosis, it helps us to identify genetic diseases. It helps us to identify genetic diseases. And lastly, it also helps us also helps us to identify infections. It also helps us to identify infections. Even a very small quantity of infectious particle, if it is there, we take out the genome and we select a specific gene for that bacteria which is not found in the humans, and we look for the presence of that particular gene. If the infection is there, only then the gene will be present. Only if the gene is present, the amplification will occur. Okay, so this is how we are using the PCR. We look for polymorphism, mutation, or the genetic disease, or for infection. Currently, large number of infectious disorders, for example, tuberculosis, the influenza, the hepatitis B, C, D, the hepatitis, the coronaviruses, then dengue, infection, Japanese encephalitis. So we have the PCR technique for all of these diseases. For all of these diseases, routinely the laboratories are performing the polymerase chain reaction. All right. So the PCR can identify the infections with very high, you can say sensitivity. Very high sensitivity can be there for identifying the infections, and moreover, this will be extremely specific, because only if the gene is there the test will come out to be positive, right? So it can be a diagnostic tool, a confirmatory tool, because of its high specificity. Once we know this background, what is happening and why we are using the PCR, next we go to how to perform the PCR. So first question was what is happening. Second question was why we are doing the PCR, and third question is how. So when you go to how, we describe the how under two headings. First, what are the substrates or the reagents that are required? The substrates or the reagents that are required for performing the PCR. Let's take a look. First thing, you must have the template DNA, which is the target DNA from where the amplification has to be done. So first thing is the template DNA. We'll talk more about this template DNA shortly, don't worry. Alright, first we should have the template DNA. Now once you have the template DNA, you require molecules which will identify the particular segment on the DNA. We call them the primers. The primers are complementary to the beginning and end of the segment which you want to amplify. Meaning, if you have a segment like this and you want to amplify the area which is demarcated like this, so your primers should identify or be complementary to sequence at one end here, and identify and be complementary to a segment here. Together they will be able to cover the area of interest. So the primer has to identify the beginning and end of the segment of interest. So you need the primers. Once you have the primers, then you need the building blocks. The building blocks are the DNTPs. If you don't have the DNTPs, how will the elongation of the primer occur? The elongation of the primer will occur only then the new DNA will be formed. So you need the building blocks. So now you have the building blocks. Once you have the building blocks, you need the builder also. Typically, the builder is the Taq polymerase, but please note, it can be any other DNA polymerase also. It need not be the Taq polymerase. It can be any other DNA polymerase. For the polymerase, we require the cofactor, that is magnesium. If magnesium is not available, then manganese can be used. Okay, magnesium or manganese. And lastly, to ensure that the reaction keeps proceeding smoothly, we have to ensure that the pH remains constant, and therefore we require the help of buffer. If any of these reagents is missing, if any of the substrates is not there, the reaction, the PCR process is likely to fail. So these are the 6 critical substrates or reagents required for a successful PCR process: the template DNA, the primer, DNTP, the Taq polymerase, magnesium, and the buffer. This is the target, this is the identifier and initiator, this is the building block. These terms will help you remember. This is the builder, this is the helper, and this provides ideal condition. Okay, so these are the 6 substrates required for a successful PCR. So now let's see what are the steps of PCR. Next, let's talk about the steps of PCR. What are the steps of PCR? Now, I always mention a step 0. Most of the guides and books will not mention this, but you have to understand there is a step 0. Until unless you achieve this step, step 0 means if you don't do this, the PCR cannot be done. Step 0 which has to be done by you is you have to design and synthesize the primer. Remember what did we say? Primer will identify the segment which has to be amplified, and this is where the process will start. So you have to first design and synthesize the appropriate primer which is a part of the segment of interest. That is where the knowledge of the sequence becomes important. If you don't have the knowledge of the sequence, you cannot design or synthesize the primer. All right, so design synthesis of the primer is the initial basic primary requirement. If you don't do this, then PCR cannot be possible. Once you have the primer, we carry out the separation of the 2 strands of DNA, which is known as denaturation. We don't have an enzyme for denaturation, therefore we use heat. Depending on the composition of the DNA, 90 to 94 degrees Celsius is enough for carrying out the denaturation. Once you have separated the 2 strands of DNA, we allow the primer to attach to the strands. This phenomena is known as annealing. Again, depending on the composition of the target, the annealing can occur in the range of 45 to 65 degrees Celsius. If the GC content is higher, it will be closer to 65. If the GC content is less, it will be closer to 45 degrees Celsius. It is preferred to have higher GC content. It increases the specificity. Once the primer has attached, now you allow the primer to extend. So extension or the elongation step. The temperature for extension or elongation step depends on the polymerase. For Taq polymerase, the temperature is 72 degrees Celsius. Obviously, if you use a different polymerase, the temperature will be different. Please note, the temperature for extension or elongation depends on the enzyme which is being used. The temperature for annealing extension depends on the polymerase. The annealing depends on the primer. Temperature for annealing depends on primer, and the denaturation temperature depends on the template DNA. So please note, these 3 have to be determined based on what is the nature of the target molecule, and we have to do a lot of trial and error. There is no fixed formula. We can get approximations using formula, but then we have to do trial and error. Multiple settings have to be used, and then we reach an approximate best value which can be used. Step 1, 2 and 3 make up one cycle. They make up one cycle of PCR, and we run about 30 to 40 cycles. we run about 30 to 40 cycles. Once 30 to 40 cycles have been completed, then we have a final extension step. This extension step is slightly different from the other extension steps. How? For the others, you will note the time duration is measured in seconds depending on the parameters. The time duration is mentioned in seconds, but the final extension step, which is performed at the same temperature, must be carried out for 5 to 10 minutes. Alright, so it is a much longer step. It is a much longer step. Once the final extension step is performed, the PCR is deemed to be completed, and then you perform the DNA gel electrophoresis. This is how it is done. For the traditional PCR, we perform the DNA gel electrophoresis, right? Why? Because the result of PCR will not be visible to the naked eye. We have to perform the DNA gel electrophoresis to see whether the PCR has been successful or not. If the PCR is successful, we'll get specific products which we can examine on the DNA gel electrophoresis. If the PCR is not successful, we'll not get any special products on the gel electrophoresis, and it will be empty. Alright, so let's do the quick recap for PCR. Substrates, 6 substrates: the template DNA, the primer, DNTP, tag polymerase, magnesium or manganese, and buffer. Steps of PCR: first, design and synthesize the primer, then carry out the denaturation, annealing, extension. This is one cycle. Repeat the cycle 30 to 40 times, and then we do the final extension step. The PCR is complete. We visualize the result using the DNA gel electrophoresis. Right? We visualize the result using the DNA gel electrophoresis. Now, the DNA gel electrophoresis itself is going to take time. So, a modification has been made whereby we don't need the DNA gel electrophoresis. That modification gives rise to what is known as the real time PCR. Please note, real time PCR is not RT-PCR. This is real time PCR. Real time PCR is made possible due to some special dyes. These special dyes are fluorescent dyes, but they fluoresce only when attached to the DNA. Only when they are attached to the DNA they are going to fluoresce, otherwise they will stay in the solution and they will not fluoresce. So these special dyes make the real-time PCR possible. You should know some examples of these special dyes: the cyber green, cyto9, the eva green, and the LC green. Okay, so these are some examples of special dyes which fluoresce only when attached to the double stranded DNA. So how do these dyes make the real time PCR possible, and what exactly do we mean when I say the real time PCR? Okay, so this is a transparent tube. We have a plastic transparent tube. In this we take the reagents, and with this reagents we have the dye is there, but it is not fluorescing. Lot of dye is there, but it is not fluorescing. It is there in the background, it is giving the background color. And we have the template DNA and some part of the primers. What will happen? The dye will attach to the double stranded DNA and give some fluorescence. It will start giving some fluorescence. If the primers dimerize, then some fluorescence can come from here also. But the DNTPs will not attach to the dye, they will not fluoresce. Once you perform the polymerase chain reaction, a small segment will get amplified. So now you are going to have an additional copy, and this additional copy will also start fluorescing. When you go to the next cycle, both of them will get copied, so you will have two more copies. The fluorescence will increase. Next cycle you will have four more copies, and the fluorescence will increase further. What is seeing, as the quantity of DNA keeps increasing, the fluorescence will keep increasing simultaneously. If you have a source of light here, you have a source of light here, no, you don't even need a source of light, I'm sorry. If you have a sensor here rather, which is measuring the intensity of the fluorescence, which is measuring the intensity of the fluorescence, you can plot this intensity fluorescence like this. Initially there is a baseline fluorescence, right? As the reaction proceeds and more of DNA is formed, the fluorescence will start rising. The fluorescence will start rising. We give a limiting amount of dye. After some time, all the dye will be occupied and will reach the peak of the fluorescence. Will reach the peak of the fluorescence. This is the fluorescence. All right, and this is over time. So if you get a graph like this implies that obviously the PCR has been successful. Only when the PCR is successful, the new DNA will be formed, and only when the new DNA is formed, the fluorescence will occur. If you get a graph like this, it immediately means that you have had a successful PCR run. You don't need to perform the gel electrophoresis. You don't even need to perform the gel electrophoresis. So you are monitoring the success of your PCR, that is the increase in fluorescence in real time. Simultaneously you can monitor it. That is why the term real time PCR is used. It tells us about the success or failure of the PCR in real time. If there is no PCR, then this background fluorescence will remain as such. It will remain flat because no new DNA is formed, so increase in fluorescence will not occur. Now suppose you're looking for infections. All right, so besides knowing whether the infection is there or not, we would also want to know what is the load, how severe or how mild is the infection, particularly for HIV infection, maybe in TB, etc. We want to know how heavy the infection is there. So what we can do, we can run controls simultaneously. We run a sample where we know what quantity of the target DNA is there. We run another sample which also has a known quantity of DNA. They will have their own pattern of the change in fluorescence. They will have their own pattern of the rate of change in fluorescence. Please note this graph are being made by the computer. All right, using these two as standard, where the quantity is known, the computer can quickly calculate the amount of target DNA in the unknown sample. So what we are doing here is quantification. So real-time PCR can also be used to quantify the specific type of DNA in a given sample. So it is also known as the quantitative PCR. The other term used for real-time PCR is the quantitative PCR, also written as the qPCR, also written as the qPCR. So please note the short form for real time PCR is not RT-PCR, it is qPCR. The short form for real time PCR is the qPCR. Now here the genome in the PCR and in the real-time PCR is the DNA. The target nucleic acid is the DNA. But sometimes we can have viruses, for example the HIV, the coronavirus, where the genome is not DNA, it is the RNA. Now the RNA cannot be subjected to the PCR. Why? Look at the temperatures which are involved. Look at the temperatures which are involved. The RNA will get destroyed. The RNA is not so stable. It will get destroyed at the high temperature. So we cannot make use of the RNA for PCR. So what do we do? We take RNA, and we carry out the reverse transcription. When you carry out the reverse transcription, what do you get? You get the complementary DNA. Once you have this complementary DNA, then you perform the PCR. Alright, then you perform the PCR. So when the starting material is RNA, in that case you have to first perform the reverse transcription and then you have to perform the PCR. This is known as RT-PCR. So please note, when I say RT-PCR, it is actually two process. First, there is reverse transcription followed by PCR. This will be used when the starting material, the starting nucleic acid is not DNA, rather it is the RNA, which is the coronavirus. So for COVID infection, the technique that we are using is the RT-PCR. The same will be for the HIV. Both of them have the genome, which is RNA, the nucleic acid in coronavirus, and HIV is the RNA. So there we have to make use of the reverse transcription followed by the PCR. The reverse transcription followed by the PCR will be used here. Alright. In addition to this, we also have something known as multiplex PCR. Multiplex PCR. Here we have multiple targets amplified simultaneously. We are looking at, let's say, two different genes which are present at two different places. So you can do the PCR for both of them or three of them or four of them simultaneously. This is called the multiplex PCR. Then we have something called nested PCR. In nested PCR, one set of primers is part of DNA segment generated by another set. Alright, so it increases. Nested PCR is used when you want very high specificity. It increases the specificity. Nested PCR is used when you want to increase the specificity. In addition to this, we have something called isothermal PCR. This is very, very important and it is a new and novel development which you must know. The isothermal PCR, as the name implies, all steps are performed at same temperature. That's why the isothermal, all steps are performed at same temperature. The very important requirement for this is a special polymerase, which is the BST polymerase. BST polymerase. BST stands for the Bacillus stereothermophilus. Alright, it is the Bacillus stereothermophilus. The BST polymerase has a dual function. Please note, it has the dual function. It is a polymerase, no doubt about that, but at the same time it can also cause the unwinding of the DNA. That is, it is the helicase. Alright, and most importantly, the optimal range of function is 45 to 50 degrees Celsius. Optimal range of function is in the 45 to 50 degrees Celsius. So now when you want to carry out the PCR, step 1, denaturation. Denaturation means you have to separate the two strands of DNA. Here we don't use heat, we use the helicase. The helicase function, which is carried out at 45 to 50 degrees Celsius, right? After denaturation, we require annealing. Remember, the primer has to be synthesized by us. Alright, so we design the primer in such a way, that it is able to anneal at 45 to 50 degrees Celsius. We are designing the primer, and the last step, the elongation. Again, this is a property of the polymerase. It is a property of the polymerase which still has the temperature range of 45 to 50 degrees Celsius. You can see the temperature for all the three steps is the same, and therefore the PCR will be successfully completed at the same temperature. This is the isothermal PCR. So these are some of the important modifications of PCR that you should know. All of them will finally result in amplification of a target DNA molecule. Now, sometimes you might want to amplify the RNA. You don't want the DNA, rather you want to see the RNA only. You want to work backwards from the RNA. So do we have a technique for amplification of RNA? A technique for amplification of the RNA. We have an isothermal. Isothermal RNA amplification technique. We have an isothermal RNA amplification technique which is known as NASFA. This question has been asked twice. You should know this. What is NASFA? NASFA stands for nucleic acid sequence based amplification. It stands for the nucleic acid sequence based amplification. I'll very briefly give you the enzymes which are used in NASFA without going into the details. Please note the nucleic acid sequence based amplification. First, we have the enzyme reverse transcriptase. Which makes the complementary DNA. Then we have the enzyme RNase H. RNase H will cleave the RNA only when it is in the dimeric form. Dimeric form means one segment is DNA, one segment is RNA. By reverse transcription, RNA makes the complementary DNA, both are attached together. RNase H will degrade the RNA so that you are left with the complementary DNA, and using this complementary DNA we can make a lot of RNA, that is the RNA polymerase is required. The RNA polymerase is required for this next step. Alright, so reverse transcriptase, RNase H and RNA polymerase, these are the three enzymes which are required for the NASFA. Results in very rapid amplification, much faster and stronger than even the PCR. It is resulting in very rapid amplification which is much faster and stronger than even the PCR. Okay, so please note it is an isothermal technique for RNA amplification. You start with RNA and you get the RNA only. So you are getting a very large amount of RNA even only after maybe 5 or 6 cycles. Millions of copies of RNA can be generated by the NASFA technique. Alright, so this is about the PCR, the RT-PCR that I wanted to tell you. Why? Because in this COVID scenario, very likely that you're going to get 2 or 3 questions from the PCR technique. All right. Some instruments which are available for automation of the RT-PCR. We have the TrueNAT machine, and the CBNAT machine. These are fully automated RT-PCR instruments. I'm mentioning the name because it is likely that you will get this question in the exam. Which of the following is an automated RT-PCR instrument? So you should remember these two names, the TrueNat and the CBNat. The TrueNat and the CBNat. These two are the fully automated RT-PCR instruments which are available. In addition to the RT-PCR technique that I have mentioned, we are also using the antigen assay and IgG IgM assay. The antigen assay is for diagnosis, and IgG IgM assay is for seroprevalence. It doesn't have a role in diagnosis. But it tells us the prevalence rate of the infection in a target population. Right. So this was a targeted discussion of the RT-PCR for the COVID infection. These are some of the possible questions which can land up in your exam. Which are the various techniques which being used for diagnosis of the COVID infection? So you know antigen assay, the IgG IgM assay, and the RT-PCR. The two instruments which are fully automated for RT-PCR, the TrueNat machine and the CBNat machine. Then associated information, the NASPA, it is an isothermal RNA amplification technique. We have something called the isothermal PCR, something called the nested PCR and the multiplex PCR. We talked in detail about the reverse transcription PCR, which is being used for the coronavirus and the HIV infection. The reverse transcription PCR, this is what is being done currently for identifying the coronavirus infection. All right, so I think we will stop here about the discussion of the PCR techniques, and that will be all from my side. If you have any questions, I'll take that, and I'll try to coordinate to send these slides to you by mail. So you should get this slide by mail. This techniques that I've discussed, you will get that by mail. Any questions? Any questions that you want to ask? Any questions that you want to ask? All right. So if there are no questions, I'll stop this session here.